Cinna's social style can look random at first. A lot of it feels like quick reactions, jokes, or just natural energy. But if you slow it down and actually observe what is happening, there does seem to be a pattern underneath. And the easiest way to describe that pattern is this. She throws out multiple low-risk social threads, and then follows whichever one the other person picks up. Instead of committing to one topic too hard, she gives the conversation options. A question, a joke, a small observation, a reaction, a bit of self-deprecation, and then she waits. If the other person engages with one of those, she leans into it. If they don't, she moves on like it never happened. That's what makes the interaction feel natural, because nothing is being forced. It's not one person trying to drag a conversation forward. It's more like both people are slowly finding a shared path. And once you start looking for it, you can see this pattern repeat constantly. Her default energy is usually warm and open. She smiles a lot. She asks questions. She makes light jokes. She builds small moments of connection. That works really well when the other person responds the same way, because warmth usually gets reciprocated. But what's more interesting is what happens when it doesn't. If the other person is more distant, more reserved, or just not matching same energy, she doesn't panic. And she doesn't force it. She just adjusts. The conversation becomes slower. The tone changes slightly. The threads become smaller and safer. And most importantly, she doesn't turn that mismatch into a problem. She doesn't complain about it later. She doesn't call the other person weird. She doesn't burn the interaction. She just lets it exist as it was. And that is actually a really important social skill, because once you turn an awkward interaction into commentary, you permanently damage the relationship. But if you just move past it, the bridge is still there. Another part of this pattern is how she uses self-deprecation. She'll make a joke at her own expense. Something small, something not too serious. And that creates an opening. Now the other person has options. They can reassure her. They can joke back. They can lightly tease her. They can engage however they want. And once they do, she follows their response. If they tease, she teases back. If they are supportive, she leans into that tone instead. That's what turns it into a back and forth. Instead of a one-sided interaction, it becomes a rhythm. And once that rhythm starts, it usually builds into banter, short exchanges, quick reactions, small jokes going back and forth. And then eventually, it transitions into something else. That's why it feels fluid, because it's not one long structured conversation. It's a chain of small interactions connected together, kind of like a dance. One person makes a move, the other responds, and then you adjust based on that. Offer, response, adjustment, repeat. And that loop continues over and over again. Even visually, she supports this pattern. A lot of communication isn't just what you say, it's how you react. And she uses facial expressions constantly. Small shifts in expression that make it clear how she is responding. The side eye, the slight smile, the quick change into a more exaggerated reaction. These are all signals. They help the other person understand what kind of response is expected. And that makes interaction smoother, because people don't have to guess as much. Her laugh also plays a role here, especially after something slightly awkward or after a self-deprecating moment. The laugh acts like a reset. It tells the other person, this is not serious. This is playful. So even if the moment could have been uncomfortable, it becomes something light instead. And all of these things together point to the same underlying pattern. She creates multiple small opportunities in a conversation, instead of betting everything on one moment. And then she follows the path of least resistance. Whatever the other person engages with, that becomes a direction. She doesn't need every thread to work. She just needs one. And once one works, she builds from there. That's why the interactions feel natural. Because instead of forcing a connection, she lets it emerge, and then reinforces it once it appears. So her social style isn't just about being energetic, or being funny, or being expressive. It's about how those things are used. Small tests, quick adjustments, and then building on whatever works, which is what makes it effective.